shall we say. Her speech today is from the Humorous Speech Manual, chronicling one such trip on a small vessel out of Cordova, Alaska. It's from the Humorous Speech Manual, Speech 5, which I believe the objectives are to entertain. Her title is Tales from the Sea, Part 1. Please help me welcome Christa, and she will be evaluated by Laura Lee.
We've all lost something, and sometimes it's relatively unimportant. I mean, who isn't missing a sock? And where do they go? And when they get there, what do they do? I have no idea. And then other times, it's something that is important. It's your keys, your wallet, or the new terror, your phone. Nothing fills me with icy horror as thinking I've left my cell phone behind, and that happens pretty much on a daily basis. But Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, have you ever lost your pants? Not just any pants, your only pair of pants. One summer, as a fisheries observer, I was assigned to a vessel out of Cordova, Alaska, and I knew the trip would be over a week long and that the plane to get there would be very small. I already had to carry 100 pounds of work gear and sampling gear, so to balance that, as the expert packer that I am, I kept my personal gear down to a bare minimum. And luckily, it was summer in Alaska. That meant I only needed 3 layers of clothing. When I got there, I found out that the boat was 100 years old and made of wood, which is good. Wood can be easily repaired, so I felt comfortable. Where my rack was in the front of the boat, in the forepeak, and it was insanely tight. There were 3 other crew, so there was a total of 4 bunks squished together, and right below was a galley table and a bench, and the table would sit like this when I tried to sit down, and over to the side was the tiniest little kitchen that you've ever seen. So there wasn't a lot of room. So of course, after arriving to the vessel, I wanted to get the feel of the town and explore Cordova. Well, that meant I went to the bar. Eventually, I returned to the vessel, and I took off my town clothes. Well, that's what I called the one set of clothes that would be kept clean. This was just for traveling, and once you're on the boat and you're ready to work, stow them away, and then turn into my workwear. The vessel was targeting sablefish, and to increase the price, they were cutting the heads off and removing the guts. So that meant this was going to be a pretty bloody, messy trip. And it was also nice and warm, so I decided not to wear my super thick rubber jacket. I just had my bibs on. And the bibs come up to here. But despite that, somehow my work pants were getting really disgusting. They were covered in blood and guts and salt and sweat, and so I brought 2 pairs of pants for a 10-day trip. I might not have packed enough. The second pair of pants went on after 3 days because the first pair was that gross. So not to mention, by the end of the trip, after 10 days of fishing, I hadn't even showered. That's not because I didn't want to. They just didn't have one. When the trip ended, I learned that my employer was going to send me out on a plane that day, a few hours after arriving in the port. And that meant I wouldn't even have time to find a shower. Oh, I felt so bad for the people who were going to be next to me on the plane. And as I was packing my bags and I was getting ready to leave, I looked for my town clothes. And I found my blouse and I put that on, and I couldn't find my pants. I looked through my bunk, my little bunk. I couldn't find my pants. So I looked through the rest of the galley. Nope, no pants. The crew of this vessel was all in their 50s, and they had worked together for over 30 years. They had been nothing but professional and courteous to me. Had I been on a vessel with 19-year-olds, I would have suspected foul play. I have, on more than one occasion, found my underwear on the masthead. But that wasn't happening on this vessel. In fact, they were even helping me. They were looking through their bunks in case somehow my pants had flown out and ended up someplace where they didn't belong. Of course, then I wondered, did I wear my pants back to the boat? But I must have, because I had to climb over a cold metal rail, and I'm sure the shock of the cold I would have noticed if I wasn't wearing pants. So now I'm faced with the prospect of having to fly on a plane full of tourists after working 10 days at sea, not showering, wearing what, splattered, disgusting pants. And I was horrified by this. And the captain took pity on me. And he offered me a pair of his pants. However, he is 7 feet tall. I am not. So I had to roll the cuff, and roll the cuffs, and roll the cuffs until they were quite large and bell-bottomish. He was also wider than I was, so I couldn't keep him up. So I had to find some stiff leftover fishing line that was on the vessel, and I tied them together in a really crude knot. And the end result was something that looked like Tom Sawyer or Huckleberry Finn. But to top it off, these weren't his town pants either. These were the ones that he used to work on the vessel. There was a hole in the knee, a hole in the back of the thigh. There were oil stains and paint splatters. They were clean, but they didn't look it. And I figured he must have intended to throw these pants out, which is why he was offering them to me. No. He asked me as I was leaving to mail them back. I was resolute that I would follow his wishes, and I did. And the cost of the postage to send the pants back exceeded what it would cost to just buy all new pants. But they must have been sentimental to him. So fellow Toastmasters, keep your friends close, keep your enemies closer, and keep your pants closest.